Welcome to episode 1 of the book club with me and Mandy Wiener. Why am I so excited?
Why are you so excited? It's because I'm here, that's why.
I really am, because we don't often, it's not traditional radio to be cross-platforming. But the few times that we do get to do it, it actually is very fun.
It is fun. I just had Stephen Curtis on the Midday Report.
What? Tell me everything. Did you guys talk
We're talking
about me?
serious things. Like the
Okay. Oh, yeah. We've got problems. Those of you that have invested in other currencies, you are probably very, very happy right now. But the book club, it's a space for all of us. It's not just about Mandy and myself chatting to authors. We're going to be telling you in advance what the book is. We're going to be doing it the first Monday of every month. We want you to participate and come chat to us about the book. Yes, we'll also chat to the author. And we are going to push for local and fiction authors in particular, so that we can really give them a platform to shine. So the way that it's going to work, Mandy is the reader. So I'm taking part of my salary to pay Mandy in this feature to read the book.
That's just not true.
Mandy will be doing the reading, but we will take turns, and then we will invite for all of you to participate in what you explored in the book. What feelings did it bring up?
We are not taking turns. I think we should just get that out of the way from the outset. The reason I am here,
how do you know
and you're not doing it by yourself, is because I'm reading the books.
Mandy can read one book in 4 hours on a Saturday afternoon. But this is the exciting part, is that we want you all to participate, as we've said, and get to chat about what the book has stirred up in you. What has it inspired, or how did it whisk you away into a world of imagination and fantasy? And we want to hear from you. So if you've got books you'd like us to include in the book club, 702 afternoons at 702.co.za. Mandy Wiener, why did you choose this as your first selection?
So as you know, I do a weekly feature on my show which focuses on local non-fiction.
Yes.
I'm a non-fiction author. I don't always get to read fiction. So when I do read fiction, I'm often curious about local books that are doing very well. And The Lost Love of Akbar Manzil won an award last week. It has been shortlisted for other awards. There's been quite a lot of hype around it.
Yes.
And for that reason, I was curious, and I've also heard amazing things about it. I do not like magical realism.
What is the reason? Because I actually wanted to
I'm scared of ghosts.
Really?
Yes.
I thought that the reason you might not be that into fiction is because you are a hard news
No, I'm
journalist.
into fiction. I'm just not into magical realism.
I see.
For me, it kind of pushes my boundaries. It's a bit too foreign a concept. But
Yes.
the reason that I found this book it was so gorgeous and so beautifully written, and it's so evocative in the writing of it, and it takes you on an adventure. So for that reason, I'm so glad that I chose this as the first book. Also, I think a lot of people have read this book in the past 6 to 8 months or so,
Yes.
and I think that a lot of people would have views on it. I can't tell you how many times I've been standing at a bookshop buying my non-fiction books, and people next to me have asked the bookseller for this book.
Really? Okay, just a question about you said magical realism?
Magical realism.
Magical realism. Please explain what that means.
I think we should get Shubnum to explain.
Okay,
what it
he's
means, 'cause
going to explain.
She's going to explain because I'm going to do a terrible job of it. But for me, it's so different to the kind of thing I would normally read. And also, I love that this book is set in KZN. Often South African books are set in Cape Town, Joburg.
Yes.
Your books aren't often set on the east coast of South Africa. And she has done an incredible job of the characters are so full, and they are have such depth to them, and so reflective in many ways of the melting pot. I saw one review describing it as a Durban curry, and
Yes.
that's really accurate.
I must say, I mean, obviously seeing overviews and reviews of the book, I love books that force you to think a little bit deeper about the themes that are being explored. And obviously we're going to be chatting to the author shortly just to get a bit more information around that. But for me, I think when I think about a fiction book, I really have to be transported somewhere else. That for me is the criteria. And being a very visual person, because I work in television and it's all about what you can create for people to see. I have the utmost respect for authors who have to be extremely descriptive in what they see in their minds in a way that you're able to take that on. So, joining us is the author of The Lost Love of Akbar Manzil, Shubnum Khan. How are you doing?
I'm good. Hey guys, it's so exciting to actually listen to you all speaking so excitedly about the book. I'm getting excited on my side.
Oh my goodness. So Mandy
I'm very
twisted
happy to
your
be here.
arm to come through.
No, she didn't. I mean, I just had to hear both your names and I was like, I'm there.
So Mandy's the one, of course, who chose your book. Mandy, I mean, I think you should kick off here with getting into the mind of Shubnum and how this all came about.
Shubnum, it's so nice to have you on the show, and you are the inaugural author of our book club. So thank you very much for coming through. So we were speaking about magical realism as a genre. I know that this book has also kind of been defined as other things. How would you describe to Relebogile, who doesn't read too much, about magical realism and how you would define this book?
Firstly, I refuse the shade. But yes, please do share.
Well, firstly, I'm so excited that my book is the first book on your book club. That is an honor in itself. And then about magic realism, look, I think it means many things. It might be a technical meaning that I'm not even sure about, but for me, I think it's when you're trying to describe the world in a non-formal way, where you're just like taking life to the edges, or sort of like, and I for me, magic realism is not really going way off from nonfiction, or I mean from real life really, because for me, love, everybody experiences.
Shubnum, I think we lost you there for a second.
Explain.
Okay, so just pick up where you said love. That's where we lost you. Oh my goodness, what is happening? Let us take Shubnum back to our producer. Let's see if we can get on a better line.
So in the meantime, let me tell you what the book is actually about, because we haven't done that yet.
Yes.
And of course, we're not going to give away too much. We want people to read the book. And for those of you who have read the book, you know what it's about. But it is essentially about two women who live 8 decades apart. It is about Sana, who is a 15-year-old girl whose mother has died, and she comes with her father to live in this rickety old mansion on the coast in KZN. And she goes exploring in this house. And this house was built in the 1930s by an Indian sugarcane farmer, a landlord, an eccentric, wealthy man who had this vision of this house. And this house has got room upon room upon room. And what Sana does is she starts to explore the house. And she opens a room that has been locked for well over 80 years. And she starts to clean it. And she also starts to discover the history of the house. And she discovers the story of a woman called Wiener who used to live there, who was the second wife of this landlord. But also living in this house is a jinn. Now, if you happen to be listening to Clement Maniatela's show this morning, he, by pure coincidence, did a show about Islamic mysticism.
Right.
And he spoke about jinns.
Yes.
And a jinn is a spirit which roams the earth. It can take on a human form, and there's a jinn in the house.
So as what some would refer to as a ghost.
Yeah, well,
but not
spirits.
directly.
There are also ghosts and all sorts of things in the book. But in modern day, in the story of Sana, there are also there's this eclectic gathering of all sorts of people who live in this house. There are these bickering women that live there. There is a singer who lives in the house as well. There's a man who's only known as Doctor. They're all these colorful, eccentric, interesting characters. And each of them has got a story. So there are themes of loneliness. There are themes of love, of abandonment, of belonging. And it's told in just the most spellbinding, lyrically stunning way.
Okay, we've got Shubnum back on the line. Can you hear us now, Shubnum?
Yes, I can hear. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened.
No problem. So you were about to speak to us about the theme of love.
Oh, Yeah, so I mean, I think I was saying that there's so much of love and grief which goes together, I think, in the novel. And the only way I could be able to talk about love in all its different forms and different ways was through magical realism, because love takes you to such an extreme of emotion that the only way I could do it was by describing it in an unrealistic sort of way. And my intention was to look at love in all the different forms through all the different characters. So there's love described between mother and daughter, or the lack of it, and father and daughter, and siblings, and the relationship between spirits, and the relationship between a first wife and a second wife, and a husband and a wife. And so there's so many characters, because I think I personally also was just trying to understand what is love and how does it exist in its different forms.
I'm wondering, Shubnam, what in your personal life inspired this story, and if, as an author of fiction, I mean, I believe all fiction comes from some sort of truth and something real that has moved you to create this.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some authors who do amazing stories without like relying on their own personal on their
Yes.
own personal. But for me, it was very easy, because I come from a community and a family where there's a lot of emphasis on being married, and from the time you're little, you're taught to like save away pots and recipe books for your marriage. And for me, coming from that kind of community, I didn't get married, and it's just I didn't or I haven't really been in a relationship, so it's a strange situation for me, and there's all this external pressure. And so I think the novel begins with Sana trying to understand what love is, and I mean a lot of that was me also trying to explore what is love, because um, there's just all these stories you're told about it, and then what if it doesn't happen for you? What does that mean? So it did come from a personal story, which I think a lot of writing does, but I think really good authors they do it without it.
Shubnam, it took you 8 years to finish this book, and you've spoken about how you kept adding on a room and a room and a character and another character into the book, and it kind of marries horror, thriller, romance, magical realism, all these different genres together. Did there come a point where you worried that you were trying to do too much?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's such a great question, and that's exactly how I describe it. Like, the book just kept growing, and the house just kept growing, and the characters just kept growing. And that was really when I realized I needed help, because it was like 7, 8 years into it, and I was like, I am drowning in this house, and I don't know. And that's really when a good editor and, in my case, an agent really like helped me, because I was getting rejected by a lot of publishing houses and agents at the time, saying like, there's just too much and we don't know how to save the book. and
Oh,
and then I met
wow.
someone. Yeah, and there was I met an agent basically in New York who was like, I remember her words were, I see a way. And I just needed someone to tell me I see a way. And basically she just gave me advice to like cut down the first 50 pages of the book. And I just needed someone to see it, to be able to look at it and tell me to do that. And I describe it as like the editor and the agent then cut away so much so that we could see the windows of the book, that the light could come into the house and show you this house and show the readers this house, because I had just been adding too much at some point. And so really that's a really good question, Mandy. Like, I needed someone to help me. I really feel like it only survived because someone came in and helped me and made it a better book.
I'm curious as to what the house, this mansion, represents in this entire, I want to call it an experience, because I imagine when a person has read that book, they're having an experience.
Well, so the house is, there's people, if someone hasn't liked the book, they always still say, but the house was a great character.
Mm.
Because the house is everyone's favorite character, I
And
think.
it holds everything together.
Yeah, yeah. And um, I never know how to explain it. I think it just comes very naturally to me to explain the house as a human being, right? And we have rooms inside us that we lock away from other people, that we'll never let them enter. There's some rooms that we make beautiful and we'll show people those rooms. We decorate it, but we're a complex. A house is a very complex thing, much like human beings. And I mean, my dad's an architect also, so maybe I grew up hearing a lot about how houses were built and houses are designed. And I mean, I can never explain it fully why it came so easily to me, but the house is a real living thing. I mean, I think it's just the way my mind works. Like, I'm always thinking about how inanimate objects are thinking and living. And like, is my laptop, I won't speak badly about my laptop in front of it. I won't speak badly about my car in front of the car. Like, I don't know. So the house inevitably had to become this living thing that oversaw the whole. And also from a plot point of view, the house then forms a structure that can go into the past and the present. Because there's a few characters that can do that, but the house has seen everything. And so from a plot point of view, the house also reconciles the two timelines from the 1930s and the current time.
I'm interested to know why, and books that I've written have had this happen to them as well, why the book has a different title in the US, where it's called The Gin Waits 100 Years, which is a different title to the South African title.
Yeah, so in the original title was called Paper Flowers, actually. So the US had the deal first, and they said Paper Flowers wasn't really a catchy enough title to sell. The marketing department said this. So we gave a few titles, and they really liked The Gin Waits 100 Years. I think it appealed to the way they wanted to market the book, which was sort of like evocative and slightly scary. But in South Africa, I think we went for a completely different title, because one of the things we said was that in South Africa we're very superstitious, and if there's a title with the word tokolosh or gin, it might make readers hesitant to pick up the book. And I really think it was a good choice, because in retrospect, when the book came out, a lot of people told me they wouldn't have bought the book if it had the word gin in the title. So we went for a completely different title, which was The Lost Love of Akbar Manzil, and it was just purely from a market point of view. Yeah.
I think just in closing, I'm curious about the dual timelines. I know that, I'm already thinking about how this book could make such a fantastic film. Why was it important for you to use the dual timelines for the story to unfold?
I mean, I didn't intend to, I didn't go in with that, but I think I was trying to also tell the story of two different women, and them somehow reaching out to one another from different, they'll never meet, but at least the younger one is connected with the older one because she reads diaries of the older one. And I wanted to write about South Africa in a time when Indians were coming into South Africa, also to give the context of like what all these Indian people are doing living in this house in Durban, and why this house was built. So inevitably, if I had to go back to the tragedy that happened to make the house the way it is in the present, I had to go back to a past timeline to show you what the tragedy was. Yeah.
I'm going to keep you on the line as we go to a call that is coming through from Noko. Noko, go ahead, from Bedford View.
Okay, hello, Rita. I have Tabile and hope you're well, and the lady with you. Last time I called in and requesting for anyone who can assist our small book club. We are a school in Soweto by the name of Mshuban Tambo. Mm-hmm. So we are trying by all means, because high school, they're not very much active with reading. So we are trying to reinforce reading so that we know at the end of the day our kids can be a bit, competitive, if I could say, because we know reading helps a lot. So the only thing that we are having a problem or is a challenge is that our sponsor, I think, has withdrawn, or they're still.
Can I make a suggestion, Nogu? So what I'm going to do, just because we are running out of time in our feature, I'm going to pass you back on to our producer who's going to take your details, and she'll find out what kind of assistance that you need. Shubnum, I want you to hear some of the messages that are coming through. One says, listening to the radio about this book of this big house, it will definitely make a good movie. And another one says, no one is more excited than I am for the new book feature. There is simply not enough book feature shows on radio, particularly in a country where we desperately need to lead by example in creating a culture of reading for our children and young people. My recommendation, they've sent it through. I'm going to keep it silent for now. Mandy, final thoughts to Shubnum before we let her go.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for writing this book, and also thank you for putting it in Durban. I think locating it in Durban is so important because not enough books are written. We've had a couple recently that have been written about Durban that I think have been excellent. But I think that's great, and also for posterity. Like, I love that you've incorporated the history of the Indian community arriving in South Africa in the 1930s, and that very rich tapestry that has emerged as a result.
Shubnum, my only question to you is, for all the budding authors that are listening to you right now on air, what advice would you give them?
Firstly, thank you so much for having me. And Mandy, I was so excited to hear that people in the queue at the bookstores, you would hear them asking for my book.
True
That
story.
thrilled
True
me.
story. I didn't make that up.
That thrilled me. And I had to set it in Durban because I've lived here my whole life, and I'm one of the few creatives that have not left. And I was like, I have to write about this place.
Aww.
And my advice for budding writers is to just read as much as you can. Like, I really feel like I became a better writer only when I started reading. Like, I had a novel or two before this, but I really feel like my writing improved just by reading as much as I could and taking it as seriously as I could. So that's my advice.
Such good advice. So, you want to become a better writer? Become a better reader. Mandy, Wiener, this was fun.
We are going to get you to read books.
I will.
Relebogile.
I will so do it. Just give me less than 4 hours. I mean, more than the 4 hours you gave yourself. So,
and also, if there are suggestions
yes,
for us to feature a specific book, I'm particularly passionate about local authors. I would like to give local authors a platform. So I'm open to suggestions of anything that anyone is interested in. And also, I'd love to hear from you. If you've read this book, what did you think about it? Do you have thoughts? I know a lot of people have read this book, so I'd love to hear what other people think about the book that we've chosen.
Tag Mandy, Wiener, and myself on the socials. Email 702afternoons@702.co.za. Promise we will let you know in advance what the next book is going to be, so you can participate in the chats. Just after 1:30.
Spend your afternoon
with Relebogile Mabotja
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.